worries, ma'am. You can just solve the issue.
Okay, made it. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Bhawna. Is this okay?
Yes, everything is perfect. It works well.
Great. So, hi everyone. I can't see you all, but I'm seeing a lot of hearts coming. I don't know how to send hearts back, but yeah, sending them virtually.
Thank you so much for taking time out and coming to our platform. I'm really obliged to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you too. I'm glad you chased me. I'm looking forward. I love to interact with students, particularly and young architects. And I'm very happy when I do make the time. I'm so happy and looking forward to the exchange.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, to begin with, I'm very excited. So, I'll start off with my first question. And it is, we start knowing a little about you, how you got into architecture, and what are you currently working on?
So I studied architecture because I had a lot of interest and I had a lot of crisis about what to study after this 12th standard. Honestly, I had done the intermediate grade drawing exam because I loved drawing and all aspects of art. But I was also a very big fan of mathematics, and I was interested in physics and all kinds of things actually, except I think history and few subjects were not my favorite. So I did an aptitude test because I happened to bump into an aunt who wanted to save me from the crisis of what to study and what to. It was mostly about what to drop that I loved that made me in this crisis. So I just did the rest of the answer is very banal. I did an aptitude test and they said architecture, and I had never considered it. I didn't know any designers and never considered design. And the moment she mentioned architecture, I knew that was it. And so the rest is I didn't know that how difficult it is to get in and what you have to do. And I went and did only one entrance exam at JJ, and I'm so glad they had me in the list.
And I think that this decision of yours has made a wholesome difference in the entire architectural sector in India.
The second part of your question, though, what am I doing right now? Okay, I want to share with you that I have actually it's like a tripod. I have 3 feet in this profession. What I do, one is research, one is teaching, and one is projects. So I try to take, at every given point, I have either a research happening that I'm going to bring into the teaching, or I'm doing some research so that I can help my teaching go further, or I detect a problem in the projects and I think it's good to take it up in the studio, or I take it up in research first. So it's always these 3 areas, and I try to cross pollinate them. And so I'm in each of these areas. I'm working on several things, but I don't want to take too much time on this answer because it's all over the website what I do. Not in my website so much as elsewhere. There are many interviews. I would just summarize that one of the things I'm working on in all the 3 areas is how to, given our huge population growth and limited land available, we have to go for high density. And there has been an eternal tug of war between urban density and sprawl, and sprawling and increasing infrastructure cost, but making it too tall and not being in the human scale. So this is an eternal dilemma, particularly for India and Bombay and cities like this. We know that it's a very, very important question to all architecture students and all architects in the future. How are we going to manage our density? The population is already in India 3 times more, 3 times the population when I was born. So, what are we going to do to not have this landscape of towers dropped all over the place, but to have an integrated new urban fabric where it will be dense, but the human intimacy and the needs for human scale will be preserved? I think there's a very big question that I ask myself, but I think everyone should ask themselves. I'm doing projects in this direction.
This is the first takeaway from this session, that young architects really need to think about this cause.
Yeah, please join me in this, and wherever we can collaborate, we should, because I think this is what will determine the future, especially whether India will get its urbanization right. We cannot afford to get our urbanization wrong. So we all need to work.
Okay, so now we come to the main topic of discussion, that is an advice to the young architect. So, what is the first thing that you would like to reteach the young architects?
First of all, I would like to recoin that word, if I may, the word reteach. First of all, I even would question the word teach, because I would like to probably, yes, I am a professor, but I think I really want to remind us of my inherent feeling about learning and teaching. I think it has already been said that nothing can be taught, but everything can be learned. Learning is the actual verb. Teachers cannot do anything, It's that teachers can only share themselves if the learning urge is there. So I wouldn't overrate teaching. I think the main focus is on the word learning. And what I think, would like to say is that, yeah, I mean, knowledge is something that is not external to ourselves. Everything can be learned if there is a thirst to learn, if there's a curiosity. So the most important thing is to create the conditions to nurture your own curiosity. And I think knowledge is not to be treated as an external matter. There's no such thing as knowledge. Knowledge is only in our minds, and in the knowledge, the proof of the knowledge is there in what we build in the world around us. But knowledge itself is only integrated in our own being. Whatever information and reflection and wisdom, once it becomes part of us, then can be called knowledge. So it's very important to understand that the seed is already there in you. It's up to you as a student if you will use your lifetime to make it a big fat tree who's sturdy. But we as teachers, what can we do? We can only water the seed. We can only take care of it. We can try to see, oh, it needs a little oxygen here, it needs a little pruning there. We cannot make an orange plant come out of an apple seed. So, knowledge and teaching has its limitation, but learning is infinite. So, I would like to say that I would like to end by saying that the onus of learning is on the one who wants to learn. And it's on them also to take it out of the teacher. But many teachers are very generous, and they can only do so much.
Very well said, ma'am. And you actually have, reframed the entire question for me. So now the mindset that I have prepared this question, it has completely changed.
Well, yeah, we should all think about it, because it's not as if we teachers are there just to teach, to transmit a knowledge. We try to transmit our experience and our open questions also. So we actually, usually, what I have noticed is mostly teachers come, if they like their job, they do it because they still are learners. And because we have some years more having done it, we can start opening doors, because it's a continuous learning for us as well.
True. Okay. So, moving to my third question, what according to you is the desired skill set for an architect?
For me, the most essential quality to become an architect, and even after becoming an architect, to become a good architect, is to have imagination. Nothing is more important. To have the quality to imagine spontaneously, you have this quality, that you imagine. So one of the essential sort of mindset to be an architect is typically a person who is not satisfied with the world as it is. I don't mean that you're a frustrated, whining person. I don't mean that. I mean that the world there is a evolution of the world, and as the society evolves, we need new kind of outer, we need to be sheltered in new ways, and that's how evolution takes place and architecture also evolves. So one of the key conditions is that an architect typically will already before studying architecture will be a person who looks at a way a certain thing is running, and you get a feeling like this ought not to be like that, it could be much better. This door handle, why is it always like this WC, why is nobody thinking that water should not be used just for moving solids from one place to the other? Water is for cleaning. Why this design is not good enough for our consciousness right now? So if you feel, no, I am not satisfied with everything how it is in a status quo, I can imagine a better world. So this kind of imagination, to notice issues that are not up to the where we are in society and that where it could be improved, and automatically having a lot of enthusiasm imagining another world. This is the most important skill set. Having said this, all those other typical things, skills architects are required to know, to draw, to know their math, to know their geometry, all those things. I think all of this are skills, but I think all those can be learned. The other one is a real skill to have it.
Very true. So while we were talking about architectural education, what according to you is the most overrated and underrated thing about the architectural education?
I think the most overrated thing, being an academician, I'm sorry to say though, that I think the most overrated thing is to habitually enroll for a master's when you finished a bachelor's, or just because you don't know what to do with your life and you miss your college or whatever it is, and you just think, oh, the next thing is to do a master's, and to keep on wanting to study and study for any number of years to dodge the problem of what crossroads you're at. And I think that's why that type of master studies, I think, is the most overrated thing.
True.
To study for its own sake, I think, yes.
Currently, I am also, dodging with the confusion of to go for masters or to not go for masters.
And we do a separate session on that if you want.
Thank you so much. I was about to request you that.
And regarding what is underrated, I would say what is underrated is the capacity to draw and to make models and to think with your hands in an increasingly digital world. And I'm also very excited about the digital technologies and the developments of all that, including artificial intelligence. But I think the capacity to think with your own computer, of which your hands are a part, to be able to think with your hands, to make, to draw, to write, the power of your imagination immediately with your hands, manifesting into something, to know your geometry. These are basics. When I say draw, I also mean geometry, and I think it's still very underrated. I think it's the thing, because the geometry is a way to link the abstract world and the physical world, and to be able to navigate and communicate between these two things, and because imagination is one thing, but to manifest it on the ground in your lifetime, you need to know some things, and I would say don't underrate drawings.
True. In fact, I feel we start architecture by sketches, geometry, and by the end of 5 years, we completely forget that. We completely transform into a digital person who's getting hold of the renders, the drawings, the CAD drawings.
So the digital world, if you know your first principles, you will be using digital tools as if they are your mere tools. If you don't know them, you will find yourself increasingly becoming the tool of the tool that somebody designed for you, and you will become limited by the software you use as opposed to using it as a tool. Look, in our days, people were using even a set square in that form sometimes. If you're not conscious, you would see lots of people's sloping roofs used to be 30 degrees or 60 degrees or 40 degrees because the tool was given. And before you know it, you start identifying with the tool to such an extent that you don't realize that you are enslaved by it.
True. It's actually very true, and even I have realized that with over time of what happens in first year and how we gradually process to the fifth year, leaving all our principles and fundamentals behind, that how we actually started. So that has to be worked on. Okay. So while talking about masters, presently even if masters is not required, it has become a necessity because students are not aware of what actually the field requires or what actually the practice requires. So what exactly according to you is the substance of post graduation? We had a glimpse of it, but I wanted to know a little detail about this.
But let's go back to how you started the question. Like you are saying that uh, it is becoming a master's is becoming a necessity. By whom?
That's what
Next
students.
question.
That's what
Let's go.
students.
Yeah. But let's go and examine the question, okay? Because I think the answer is kind of contained a little bit, but you said that it's becoming a necessity because students are not aware of what the field requires. So who is the field? And what is a field for architecture? It's a field. What is a field? A field is an open ground. You can do whatever you want. So I would ask all the students who are listening, and also you now, because you said about your interest in masters. Yes, it is for some. It is not a formula that it is for everybody going to save you. Whatever is your dilemma, 1 year will pass, your masters is over, and you have exactly the same dilemma. What will you then do after you have your masters? You will come to the same question. So my suggestion is that architecture is a study. You have to not you don't have to think what the field wants. You have to think what do you want to do in your life. And you chose architecture for your reason and someone else took it for another reason. I would ask yourself to explore what can you do with this study if you still are interested in architecture and you love it still. What could you do with it? How does that scope of that profession relate to you as a person, as a very specific person? What do you want? Do you want to become an architectural curator? Do you want to become a journalist? Do you want to become a person who facilitates conversations like you are doing or on panels? Or do you want to further knowledge about things in architecture and become a researcher? Or do you want to become like a chief architect? Do you want to become an urban designer? Do you want to become an interior designer? Do you want to become a material manufacturer? You can become anything, right? So, what do you want to do? And forget about whether you should, people directly think, which masters should I do? Instead of that, just think, what do I want to do with my life to be fulfilled? And if it is architecture, which aspect of architecture? What would help me to get to that goal? Would it be a job? Would it be a field or an experience which is not directly that job, but I need to learn something to understand the ground reality in something and then do a master maybe if I still need it, and then in what, things like that. And then you will know the answer. But you have to not just be like a part of a rat race, who are just because when you study for 5 6 years, you get accustomed every day, get up in the morning and go to the university. So we have to come out of that comfort zone of having a daily routine and be in the discomfort zone a little bit and ask yourself that scary question of the crossroad: where are you? What do you want to be? What kind of people do you want to work with? What are the things you are non-negotiable, you're not ready to do? And then you will know what to do. And one of them is masters.
True. I think the way you have framed it will really help all the students and all the audience reframe themselves that what exactly our vision is. And how do we look forward to doing the masters or going for the degree that we approach?
Good.
Thank you so much. This will personally help me a lot.
I hope so.
Okay. So, do you think the practical world seems to overpower our creative side by limiting our exposure to education?
Um, again, I do not think that the practical and ideal, are two different things. I think to be idealistic or imaginary or visionary and being practical and knowing about ground realities or the sciences, they are not in conflict. It's one world. Our body is our physicality and our mind is about our mentality. Our emotions is about, but it's all we. So similarly, I don't think that ground realities and practicalities, as you call them, should restrict or overpower. If it overpowers your creative side, it means that you are just being passive to the context and circumstances, and that means it is, if you feel that they are creating a conflict, that means you might be feeling one of two problems. Is either maybe you feel that you have to fulfill social convention and expectation and don't go against it, and then you put yourself in a position of conflict through that question, or you might feel that the practical, this is what I see housing to be. So how will I, developers are doing this, how will I ever come up with something nicer than that? So then you create a conflict where actually there is none, because the the world is as it is, but that doesn't prevent you from imagining a world of based on how it should be. Those who cannot do better, they are building that world. But if you can do better, you should protect your mind from the influence of passively being influenced and allowing somebody else's thought to take a foothold inside your mind and start to limit you. So you should question your own limiting beliefs if you do that, as to where are you not empowering yourself. See, whenever you have a conflict like this, it actually means you have a better idea. So you should clear the way from this conflict and let your mind be encouraged to develop the best vision it can see. And thereafter, it's going to be a big struggle, and you might be lonely at times, but you will feel, once you see your vision clearly, you will be so excited to realize it that you will get the energy to go through any obstacles on the way.
Exactly.
Did it answer the question, or did I go totally off the point?
In fact, I'd like to compliment. We have a lot of non-architecture students joining in and saying that it's very well said, and it's not only for architecture, it's for all the students that are being a part of the session. So
yeah, I have seen one comment here. May I read it out?
Yes.
It says you have to think about the financial part. Can I tell you, I don't have time to take this. I think this is an excuse. Sorry. Because because to be practical, okay, everybody says this question, okay, they told me when I was young. Today, 30 years later, I can say that they were wrong. Because I did not have some family people footing the bills of my adventure and my, difficult choices. I lived in Bombay at my own cost before I went and did other things, and I know what it is to have a financial risk, and I know what it is when your whole existence has to be paid by your action. Because I was in that situation myself, I, on the contrary, see that many people who have all a comfortable situation, what is their excuse to not experiment and make it better? They also don't. So I would de-link the financial part, because I think, yes, the financial part, like any other risk, is there in the world. Okay? Why did I take the risk despite that? Because I thought, what is a waste of a life, of my life? That is a bigger waste. If I already give up before trying, I have an idea of how it should be, and just because with this, in my first year after graduation, how will I earn my salary? How will I, I have paid always my own bills, so I know what you're talking about, and I don't want to say this to argue because that I'm right, but whatever belief system you have, you will be right, you will be proved right. If you think it's not possible, it will not be possible. If you think it has to be made possible, it will become possible, because you're putting your time and energy in it, and it will become possible. I think my whole life is the evidence of that if you put your energy at the service of what you believe, not on what others believe that you can't do, but on what you aspire to do. I'm not talking about an overconfident belief that there will be no difficulties of finances on the way. But I'm saying that should you not, because of having a safety net around you of that kind, should you be never doing any risk or change in the world? And should I give up all my life having worked in certain offices, drawing certain projects that I totally disagree with, only because it would have paid my bills? That's the other side of the coin.
Exactly. And I really appreciate how you have framed the answer for the audience, because these days there are a lot of people who have this excuse. So
it's okay. Everyone, to each his own, and more power to everyone. Those who feel that it is too much of a risk to do, and we are not asking somebody to take our risk. We are telling each one to take the risk that they are dying to take for themselves to fulfill their own aspiration. So
yeah.
there is no other demand. Everybody, if you feel something is too risky, you shouldn't take the jump. But those who are doing it, let them do it. Everyone can do whatever they want. But if you have an aspiration and you don't fulfill it, I just feel you will live in conflict and you become bitter and become unnecessarily, you should give total free rein to your, imagination and vision.
I hope this answers all the questions to all the students present here. Okay. So I have a few short rapid fire questions prepared for you, which depends on the professional and personal interest. So this is my favorite part of the sessions that I take. So shall I begin?
Yes.
So the first
I'm
thing,
I'm getting a hamper or no?
yes,
Or
you
not?
hamper for this
I
as
heard that rapid fires are followed by hampers.
yes.
Okay.
Okay. So what is one thing that you hate and love about our field, architecture?
I hate nothing.
And you love
I
it.
love everything.
That's the most sweet answer I've ever got. This is the first question that I asked to all my life question rapid fire series. Okay, so which is your favorite architectural structure across the globe?
The step 12s.
What would you be doing if you weren't doing your current role as an architect?
I would use my imagination and my strength to manifest my imagination in some or the other area.
So does this tell us about your secret skill?
Yes.
And it is?
That human beings, each of us are given, that is the speciality, that we have the power of imagination and we can make, if you envision a thing in great detail and you give it your all, you can make that imagination come on the ground.
Okay. So one of your favorite memories of college life that you would like to share with us?
To hang around with one's friends and be willing to have bad chai from the canteen just because of the sense of connection with each other.
True. Which three items you could not live without?
My fountain pen and notebook, of course, my journal. And otherwise, I think that's enough. What you cannot live without, I mean, of course, water, food, and basics now you would think of. But I would say the most important for me when I leave the house, I look for my fountain pen, my journal, and my keys.
Okay. So before we end, as we know that our profession is changing and architecture is no longer the old man profession as it was. So what is your suggestion on this to the architecture students, but as a student?
I'm glad it's changing because everything should keep evolving. So for me, it's only natural that the profession is changing, and my advice would be to not each day to imagine the biggest future you can see for the world. Where is it going? To remain connected in our collective consciousness in among humans, Yuval Noah Harari wrote in Sapiens that our generation, our where we are in evolution is about the being able to live the imagined reality, which we are in, and that there is a collective consciousness which is at work. So to not remain isolated, but think even impersonally, what are we a part of, and see your life in a big perspective of a larger society over a long period of time. I'm doing an exhibition now in Rotterdam at the Biennale opening end of this month, and it's called Ancestor. I'm looking at what kind of ancestor do you want to become, what I want to be. Each of us can ask ourselves, when we say time is passing, what can you always be aware of, where are you positioning yourself in the larger flow of things in society and in time? Because whatever, each minute you do one thing or another thing, it will have a lot of repercussions on all the future generation. And I'm not saying it is as any kind of a green police or anything of that sort. I'm just talking about it, that to be alive, it means that we are channels, we are like a bridge between our previous generation and the future ones. And to feel it, to feel the context of your life in a larger context, it's very exciting. And I think if people, the future, the students are trying to be in touch with the pulse of where society is going, then I think you will make a big difference to the society going along.
So I think we can end our session on you getting an hamper and me getting an invite for the exhibition.
Okay, you're most welcome. Come if you can in 22nd September.
Okay. So is it an open invite to all our audience or it's just for me?
No, all you want to be exclusive, then it's for you. If you want it to be an open invitation, it's all these places are open, that's why exhibitions are things you put out there in the world, and you just create what you work on and you put it out there to interact with others and to receive their responses. And once you make it and deliver it, it's out in the world, it's a being of its own. And yes, we watch it. So yes, you're welcome, but it's far away, it's in Rotterdam.
Yeah, that's one condition which has to be fulfilled. Otherwise, it's just give to see you and visit the entire city.
So Bhavna, one rapid fire question to you. What have you decided? Are you doing the masters?
Okay, so I think we
rapid
need to have a personal session for this.
Okay. All right.
I think it could be too rapid to decide.
I agree.
Yeah. So I think for me, this conversation can go endless, but yeah, we need to restrict to the time. And it's really good how you did, come up with every aspect of the topics that I wanted to come up with. And you gave us a chance to see how an experienced person looks like. So thank you so much.
Thank you for sort of getting back several times, and have not been so familiar with how to do this kind of Instagram live, but I enjoyed it. Thank you so much. And I love to see so many hearts coming up and so many smiles. And I don't know how to send it all back to you, but please consider that I'm sending the same to all of you who are here.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Have a lovely weekend.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
See you.